Hey, we're live.
Hey,
Hey,
hello, hello
Alex is back.
everyone.
hi.
Hi, hi
Welcome back.
Alex.
Hey.
So, hello everyone, I'm May,
And
and
Marco.
Alex.
all right. So what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, so a couple of my friends said that our last video was a little too complicated, and uh,
Mm,
and I do realize that we might have explain we didn't do a good job explaining some really complex ideas.
mm.
CityFi is a very complex thing to talk about. I think in a span of 30 minutes. So we decided that maybe we should go back and talk about why we look at blockchain as an investment opportunity, and maybe some of the basic concept. What do you think, May and Alex?
Well, happy to. I think we should jump into that. And blockchain right now is like the very hot topic. People talk about shouldn't I invest in blockchain? So yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah. So if I may, I think to me, why do I look at blockchain? That's really just four major reasons. So number one is that I think it's an exciting time for our financial system. There's a lot of ideas on how making this blockchain and decentralized financing work and to replace the old system. However, it is still very early, and as an investor, this is the kind of time that we have to kind of pay attention to new technology and new way of doing things to find opportunities to invest. Um, I think a lot of people argue that blockchain would not work, but I would also say that I think Bitcoin has been around for a few years now, or not more than 10 years now. So I think uh, Bitcoin and blockchain has proven that it's here to stay. Um, and also at the same time, I think it's very exciting because there are a lot of new projects. Uh, Compared to say 4 or 5 years ago, there are a lot more new sort of infrastructure projects. People are exploring different ideas on this decentralized financing. And number four is because I'm a private equity investor myself. I always look for infrastructure uh, opportunity to invest, and it's a very exciting time right now. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah. I think it's one thing that I personally, just to let you guys know, my background, I'm not very well versed in Bitcoin and blockchain. In fact, of the three of us, I want to present myself as the idiot, not as in a bad way, but the layman who is going to ask you guys questions. Because after hearing your last talk last time, it was a very exciting topic. But at the same time, I find myself going, okay, I got to go on YouTube and learn about this. I got to go on YouTube and learn about this. And then I'll see videos that says, on the title, it says the best and simplest way to explain blockchain. And I click on it. And then for the first minute, the guy says a couple of things that's very general, like, I get it. And all of a sudden they start going deeper and deeper. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. It's the simplest, but it's still like very baffling. And it starts to become this almost existential questions that gets more and more complex as I try to think more and more about it. So I hope that today, by speaking to you guys, I get a better grasp of what's going on. So that's it. I think it's definitely one of those things I can't ignore. So I definitely have to learn about it too.
Okay, and I think I want to clear this up before we go more into the blockchain, what is blockchain is. I'm not sure if I'm qualified. I studied, I invest, I also developed the program to help hedging and do the hedge fund. But everything's like moving so fast and everything keeps changing. But I want to clear this up. When people say invest in blockchain technology, there are lots of aspects into this. Most of the people say you put money in coins. like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, whatever coins there are in the market. So when this is the what is most of people think when you say you invest in blockchain, but actually in the blockchain ecosystem there's so many things you can put your money into. You can put money in equity, and there are lots of people who wants to give share and stocks away, and you can do that, and those projects involve cybersecurity on blockchain, or create wallet, or create NFT, or doing their own protocols, their networks, or their own chains. So these people provide a lot of service so you can invest. And right now a lot of people look at investing in blockchain technology as in like a stock market or VI. They put money in equities and they get shares and the coins. So today we're going to talk about blockchain as a technology, blockchain, and I think later on, weeks after, we can talk about investment in blockchain technology on the different levels, like not only in coins, but how we're going to invest in blockchain. Because Warren Buffett, he doesn't like Bitcoin. Everybody knows that he just say things about Bitcoin, not so nice things about Bitcoin, but he invested in blockchain technology that help create wallets. Because even Bitcoin goes down to zero, people still keep Bitcoins in a wallet. Or if Bitcoin is like $100, people still keep Bitcoin in wallets. So he put money in blockchain business, but not the blockchain itself, like Bitcoin itself. So there are ways to invest, and even though you don't believe in Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other coins, you still have ways to make money from crypto market, because the opportunities for everyone. So stay tuned.
Yeah, great.
So, so how should we do this? You want to go through your some of the images you created, or could I just go right ahead and ask some questions?
Oh, why don't we just start with questions? I mean, that's great.
Um,
Yeah.
so
I'm
you
very
guys, Marco. So with blockchain, I understand blockchain it's an electronic ledger. Basically, it verifies the history of certain things. So blockchain, in order for something to be attached with the blockchain, it has to be an object or an asset of some sort, even if it's electronic. Is that correct?
It has to be numbers, or text or files. It can be anything, but it's not. When you say asset, I don't know. People might think about house, cars, or anything. But blockchain deals with all the
Yeah.
digital things only.
So
So you can do with assets or non-assets. Like you can keep ledger. You
yeah.
can
So basically, something, even if it's
something.
digital, electronic, even if it's like let's just say NFTs, like electronic
Yeah.
thing, and it basically number one verifies it, and it's always attached to something. So, and what if I could, I'm going to run this definition by you, but it's almost like an electronic tattoo, almost, right? Like me. Let's say I'm I'm putting myself up for sale, right?
Okay.
And I could be traded around, like to different people, and then I get a tattoo that says, like, born whatever, and then all of a sudden goes, on certain date I was traded to this person. This person my owner now, and then
Yeah.
and once I trade it, there's going to be a new tattoo that comes in. But what it is whoever that the beauty of blockchain is that you could see these you could trace the history, and that you cannot go back and erase the tattoo. You can't like laser it out or something. Is that sort of a good layman explanation of this, of how blockchain works?
Well, you may say tattoo, I would say permanent ledger, but I think it's the same thing. Like you keep the transaction and it's going to be there forever.
Okay. Okay.
So you sell a hand, then this transaction you're gonna have the hash, which is a unique number, a
Mhm.
transaction ID. This transaction ID is a unique number that you already sold your hand. And then when people got your hand and want to sell your thumb away, they're going to get this transaction ID that has like specific information about you selling your thumb, how much and when. So each fingers eventually will have all the transaction ID if they're sold. And if they're not, they will stay intact, and they will have only one transaction ID as a hand. And I prefer it's permanent ledger. You can say tattoo, and it gives the perspective of it's going to be there forever, which is true.
So it is a technology that number one verifies, identifies, verifies, and then give the history of something. So let's say, like, of course you have Bitcoin, then that is a lot of times associated with blockchain. You can get confused, but basically, Bitcoin blockchain enables Bitcoin to be something that's viable because it verifies and it traces the history. And in the future, something like blockchain could be used for example, medical record too, right? Even though I'm not trading it, but it's my medical history that says, oh, on certain days I had a cold, on certain day I had a heart transplant. Is that what? And then people could then go back and trace it. And so in the future, um, I don't have to say keep my paper record on a certain hospital. Instead, I have it somehow floating there in the network attached to me. Is that correct?
It is correct, and we also have a software house, and we're doing this right now. Not with the hospital. I think information is information, so we're doing like little points. So people, the employees of one store, will have points every time that they made a sale, and then the points will
Mm,
go back into the wallet, and then they can use these points to purchase items in the store. So this hardware house came to us and asked us like to design the system. And
mm,
they can do this on normal database. They have the tools, they have all the means. But what we're doing is we save the cost by like 80%.
mm,
When
mm,
you use it right, blockchain can be very, very cheap. In a
mm,
smaller scale, it can reduce the cost like abundantly, and that's the beauty of it. So
mm,
even though I piggyback on the public blockchain, at the time I used Solana, but if it's today, I'm gonna use different chain. It's like that's another story for another day, but it can be super cheap too. No, at that time, and I didn't use Solana, I used Stella. But anyway, picking chain is like different story.
mm,
But yes, you can reduce the price and improve the efficiency, especially when it's like in a small group of people. So when you
mm,
talk about the hospital, yes, you can do it, and it can easily be done. What's difficult when it comes to hospital and privacy is whose information can be showed to certain group of people. Like
mhm,
which doctor can see access your file, which nurse can access your file, and which relatives can access your file, and how much. I think that's the ethical question, but the practical question, it can be done. Actually, I can do it anytime that you like. If you run a hospital, I would do that for you. So yeah, and it's going to reduce the cost, reduce the fixed cost of a server, a database, and all the things that traditional world has too.
mm. Okay.
Yeah, so I put up a diagram here. I think to the viewer that doesn't really necessarily understand blockchain yet, I will argue that it's more like a digital payment system. So the traditional payment system, we call it centralized payment system. Like when you want to transfer, when Marco wants to transfer $100 to Alex, I have to go through a bank. So I like
Mhm,
type in an instruction to my bank, and then my bank would transfer that $100 electronically into Alex's account. So in theory, I mean, we don't really have to see the actual money anymore, right? It's just a number on your screen that show from your bank. But in reality, I guess I don't know. I guess I don't know how these things work in behind the scene. I'm sure the bank has a way to settle these payment transferring from one person to another person. But the downfall of this system is that it's being controlled by a lot of people, a lot of unknown system. It can be easily manipulated. So the people who has a better idea or have a ideal of a system that doesn't need to go through people build this called distributed ledger system for payment. So then I would transfer a credit through this distributed ledger. and then a bunch of computers will confirm, yes, indeed, this electronic asset, or we call it a token, it's actually owned by Marco, and Marco is now transferring that token to Alex.
Hmm.
So I think that's probably my explanations of the blockchain.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I think
Can
you
I?
get it right. Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Can I bring up another example relating to this diagram, though?
yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
So basically, first of all, this is a very good diagram because it talks about when people talk about centralized institutions, you always think about one, but actually there's a network of these.
Mm,
So, for example, I'm going to bring up like another example with a property. Let's say I have a house,
mm,
right, and I want to sell that house. So you have a realtor, you have a real estate agent involved. You also have like the government land and deed to verify that this does belong to you.
yeah,
Then you have the bank, and then you have the seller's bank, and then the buyer's bank. They all have to kind of coordinate together to make sure the information is right in exchange for this thing, correct?
yeah,
And then once you have it, you get this piece of paper, and there you go. If I could understand correctly, then blockchain, what it does is, let's say now you have a house, but the house itself under the blockchain system, let's say you use a certain program or whatever, verify that the history of this house. So this house was built when, at this date it was sold to this person, and this date it was sold to that person. And then when I use this system to do it, basically, I just use utilize the same system, and it says, hey, then you give me money, and then I would then exchange that for the house. Is that correct? Or is that a good way of thinking about it? And I know, again, it could be applied to digital assets, but now I'm talking more about the object itself. So the house itself has this almost the ledger that's attached to the house
yeah,
itself.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a good explanation. If the regulators allow this to happen, that can happen. But normally, I always use a car as example because car
Mm,
has spare parts. And
mm,
actually, house can do the same. House also has parts. So so if you buy a car and the car is in the ledger, like Marco, like Alex gonna sell his whole body and then he cut his hands and fingers and things, and
mm,
we have tattoos. So same things apply to the cars. So this car, if they change its tires, the ledger will show which tires has been changed and when and how much, or the cooler, the cooling system, or the aircon system, or anything. So you have this one car transferred to you, but you can go through the ledgers, and all the ledgers will show you which part has been changed by when.
mm,
And I mean, normal database can do that, but blockchain is designed specifically to do this. So it's going to be
mm,
faster, it's going to be quicker. If you go to any car factory or car industry, car shop, and say, hey, I want to buy this car. When was the last time you changed this tire? Or when was the last time you changed this aircon system? It's going to take them days, if it's not months, to check all the information for you, and it's
mm,
going to be costly. But with this, it's going to be much faster, less costly, and then when it comes to insurance or all the protections that you can have, you can do it more efficiently. It means that your insurance might reduce because you have full record and it's trustworthy record to the insurance. And then
mm.
it's going to be easier to sell in the market, and it will promote much faster movement of velocity of the money in the car industry. I mean, this hypothetically, if we can get things done through the permission of parties.
And that'd be cool too, because you could imagine. I know you're still an example. I'm already dreaming about this in the sense that the car itself has a monitor system too, and then you could also be able to gauge, like, you can actually have a rating. So when I go to a used car salesman, I could just get this program, and it says, hey, this is rated a 7 or an 8. Then I know for sure, like, hey, that's good. It wouldn't, like,
yeah.
you know fail
So,
on me.
I would make one more additional comment on this. I think may mention that if the regulator allows it,
Yeah.
right? And I think there are these sort of jurisdictions that are constantly thinking about how they can take advantage of blockchain now. Like, none of them are sort of major country, but like for example, some countries are now using Bitcoin as one of their reserve currency, so they are recognizing these like digital assets or kind of real asset. And also, like I thought about the sort of the trading house example too, where maybe Hong Kong, if one day they allow that system happens, then you can actually bind your sort of house D into a NFT, right? A
Mhm.
non-fungible a token where you can actually start trading this NFT around, and you can actually break it into like different pieces of ownership too, right? Like so, one NFT representing one house, and then that house can be co-owned by like three, four owners at the same time, right? So that's kind of the idea, but having the regulator agrees to this, it's difficult in two sense, right? I think one is the political sense. Political sense meaning like they're, right now the sort of government people are very much engaged or like enjoy having this sort of banking system attached to the authority. Losing that control could be dangerous to them. The second is also the blockchain system is still very sort of early stage right now. I think there's a lot of things to be improved. Yeah. But having said that, I think there are these sort of famous investors that are investing into um, real estate in what's that, Animoca and
Sandbox.
Sandbox. So it is kind of happening, and that's why it's very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think the model is very early, and I think definitely there are potentials, but I think we need to feel that our ways around when it comes to land and metaverse and sandbox and things. I think we they still feel their ways around, but they have the establishment. That's a good thing, and they start their awareness. That's a good thing. They start to have characters running in the place. So and a lot of metaverse start to have like a lot of characters running, and all the brand names jump into that to so that people can have dual worlds, in the real life and in the metaverse. They have the same thing. One thing that people should be aware in the metaverse is in the real life, in the waking world, Earth cannot be expanded. But in the digital world, you can have so many Earths. So, or one country repeatedly. So, I don't know how they're going to solve this problem, how they're going to ensure that we're not going to mint more earths so we can sell more lands, or mint more land, or mint more countries so they can sell more lands. So this is the thing. Properties in the real world has value because it's so limited. You're in Hong Kong, you should know best. And but in metaverse, this is something that people start to look back and say, if it's not limited, then why people would buy properties in metaverse?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really depends on the value you see there too. I mean, I used to play a video game where I get together with my friends, and of course, like it's all digital stuff. But in the end, my values, I get to spend time with my friend. My values that like I have fun. I actually took the game seriously. My values that I could get a 2.0 KD or whatever, and then kill death ratio and all that stuff. That's the value that I find in it. It's not necessary that it has to be limited supply. It's just it just has to provide what it promises to do.
So I think in that case, metaverse selling network effects.
Yeah,
How
I
people
mean,
bring people to stay together.
yeah, it's almost like my son, right? I have a son, and right now I'm debating. I see, I got my first cell phone when I was 26 years old, and that's because
Wow.
one of my friend cannot stand it anymore. He couldn't reach me. He's like, he literally bought me a cell phone and a plan just so he could get in touch with me. Now with my son, he's 10 years old and he goes to school and everybody has a phone. And sometimes I would think, well, I mean, when is it a good time for him to get into social media? I'm not pushing him towards it, and it's good he doesn't have an Instagram account, but eventually that social effect, it'll be like, I can imagine he fell in love with a girl and he managed to strike up a conversation. How's he gonna get in touch with her? It's like, hey, what's your Instagram now? Everybody already has that peer effect that if you don't do it, then it'll be very, very hard to kind of keep up with the whole world. You'd be kind of like a hermit. So it's sort of like that. I can kind of see the metaverse. A lot of it would have that effect in that sense. First of all, it has to make it engaging and fun. But second of all, you have to then, there are certain things in there that would provide you with some type of status or prestige, right? So you walk around, like I visited the studio recently, and then they had a demonstration of this town that they make, and it's concentric in a circle. And I'm like, well, are you gonna have different prices for different lots? He goes, yeah, because the ones closer to the town center would be more expensive and they're more lavish, and everybody could see them more. Whereas the ones up there, not only do you have to travel a longer distance, but because people don't see it as easily as you have more population running around the center, then you see the house like, oh, that's a nice house. Like, oh, that's my house. So I
Yeah.
think it's little nuggets of fame that people try to trade.
Yeah, I think that's a part that NFT trying to sell. Community, people stick together, we have one purpose, or we share this network effect. And actually this network effect plays a lot of parts in NFT world, in the blockchain world, and Bitcoin as well. We can do like small mild scale of network effect. Like you have Bitcoin, everybody has Bitcoin. Even though I can fork Bitcoin, I mean copy Bitcoin and create my own chain, looks so identical to Bitcoin. I can't do the same thing as Bitcoin does. I mean technically I can, but I won't have the same population with Bitcoin. And I think network effects is a key that's going to bring the blockchain or cryptocurrency price onwards. So just to go back to what Marco just said about property, I think property is a good thing. People can buy property. The value when you invest in metaverse, you don't really invest in the value of the only the value of that property, but you invest in the value of the whole network system.
Mm. And interesting, I saw your name now. Your name is Human and Tech by May.
Yeah.
So can you explain to me the whole thing about human and tech? Because that reminds me of a really interesting thing I heard once, but I'm going to let you explain it first.
Well, I have this YouTube channel, and I'm an engineer by training. I studied mechanical engineer. I made robots when I was younger, and then I studied economics. And I'm into cryptos. But I also like the human part of things, and I don't think people should choose between one thing or another. I like the way that human and tech integrates. Not I'm not super techie nerdy. I can be nerdy sometimes, but I'm not that techie. So I mean, a lot of people, especially my sister, she doesn't like the name. She's in marketing, and she said we should do something cool and catchy. And I said no, I want the human part in this. I want a um, soul and a feeling things into my channel. So I put this name up, and against the advice of a ace marketer, that I like the human part of it. So that's why I put it. But I want to talk about tech too.
Because it's interesting because um, what you said really related to my professor said to me in grad school. He gave a presentation once, and he started off the talk by saying, in order for technology to remain relevant, it has to be human. And this is during the 2000 dot-com boom, and also the crash that associated with that at that time. And there's a lot of really crazy stuff that people were really putting money into, like some obscure website and incubators and all that stuff. And And at that time, there's a lot of things that kind of passed, and there's a lot of things that kind of um, not like that got kind of went out of fashion. And I think a lot of it, what you said, is basically it has to be human. It has to fulfill a human need. So, for example, like Amazon, even though it's still, it might be a bad example, but even though it's still digital, but it's a website, but it addressed the need for people to buy and securely online, and also fast delivery and everything. All the stuff that happens in the real store has to happen here. Instagram, it all appeals to human ego and want to share and stuff like that, and also the darker side to that. But that's why I find your name pretty interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Not so many people mention that. It's just like, I think it's the techie people couldn't grasp it, and the very humanitarian couldn't grasp the idea. Like the artsy and the techie people
Yeah,
sometimes they don't mix.
yeah,
So, but I like the fact that you study architect. I think architect is probably the only school that I can think of right now that study both the
yeah.
artsy and the creative part and the logical part. I study engineering; it's dry, like
Mhm.
anything. So, and I think it's not. I can't come across. I mean, from on the top of my head, I can't think of anything that have this creativity and logical thinking, and you're trying to mix them together. Except architect or probably
Uh,
interior, but more into architect.
I think mechanical engineering well, it's relevant technology because it serves people too. So I think it's definitely has a human side to it too. Only thing I guess what you're saying is that architecture is it's put up so on the surface too. It really has to appeal to your aesthetic. I remember this one guy. In my school, there's a lot. There's this one guy who was, you know, when I went to school, there's the people who are more theory oriented and the ones that are more practical oriented. And and one guy was saying, "Oh, I'm good at theory. I'm good at writing and all that stuff." And he comes up with this thing, and then he'd go on he'd go on this whole thesis about all that stuff. But then I look at it and it's like, damn, but it's fugly. It's so ugly. It's like, it doesn't work. But you could talk about all day, and people could clap and everything. But in the end, the thing just doesn't work. So it's one of those things that you have to satisfy both. Um, yeah. And I have another example. I mean, I'm going to be very quick about it, but I used to DJ when I was during that time actually.
Oh, something we don't know about. Marco, did you know?
Yeah, I know, I know. If you have ever been to his house, you would know. He has like all those like
um,
spin table and stuff.
but there are definitely guys who are out there um, who goes out in the clubs and they'll play only the stuff that they like, and you have to ask them, but they don't care if other people dance or not. So it's kind of like
Oh,
sometimes the people who get so involved in the whole like it gets so into the whole culture of it doesn't understand that in the end you have to make it like you have to be able to communicate it, and yeah, a lot of times people will be asking architects or even DJs like do this for other DJs, or is this do you do this for other architects, or do you do this for your client?
Hmm.
So sometimes you have to make that distinction and remind yourself too.
yeah.
Wow, that's great. Well, we want to have more people
Yeah,
to understand what we're trying to
exactly.
deliver. Yeah, here in this channel. So we're gonna have to constantly remind ourselves to DJ for the people to dance.
You
All
have to make
right.
fight dance, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, exactly.
oh, good
Well,
thinking. Good quote.
Go.
it's over 30 minutes now, so I think it's a good time to end. But before we do, I suggest we talk about metaverse and NFT next time because we
Sure.
do, uh, kind of naturally went into that subject already. And for audience that doesn't really understand what is metaverse and NFT, maybe we should talk about that next time.
Okay, great.
Sure.
Anything you want to add? May. I'm sorry. I think I talked a bit too much this time.
I don't know. I mean, I actually I like your ideas. I think you bring aspect to the boring blockchain things, and I like to hear more of the different angles. So yeah, I like to hear you talking. So nothing for me to add, and there's going to be a lot of things to cover under metaverse and NFT. NFT itself is like has a life of its own, and it's trying to have a big thing that has like new network and things away from the existing blockchain community. And when I look at that, I find that it's very interesting. And you don't need to know anything about blockchain to appreciate NFT.
Cool.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Do we do our recommendation?
Well, I'm gonna do boring one right here because I remember last time I told you like the very first time that I exercise, and it's been a month and it's achievement. I never exercise so constantly for this long. I exercise four
Nice.
to 5 days a week,
By yourself
like
or
by myself on my own. I just like sometimes I just grab my shoes and I run, and then I swim, and then I do yoga, but mainly I run. And I'm very proud of myself, and everybody feel like I look fitter, I look better. My weight's still the same, but I feel much better about myself, and I there's just something that you really can't explain. Maybe Alex can because he exercised too. But you know, when you do this all the time, it feels good. It feels like your
yeah,
body is younger.
yeah,
I don't know how to explain
Yeah.
this. So, but highly recommended. I've done this for a month. I'm not going to be an exercise advocate right now, but I love it.
yeah. Excellent. It's definitely good because a lot of my friend who says, "Hey, I want to start exercising and stuff," and I would say, just okay, that then just do 100 push-ups tomorrow, or like not 100 at a time, but just cumulative, or you just do 30 push-ups or something like that. Just get started. It doesn't have to be so intense because I think a lot of people are very intimidated by the fact that, oh crap, now if I have to do this now, then I have to dedicate myself to it. But as you said, all you did is just dove into it, start doing it, and then naturally, as you start seeing the results or you start feeling the results, then you will want to continue. And especially you look in the mirror and be like, hey, I'm looking good now. Like you don't want to
Yeah.
give it up. So I'm so glad to hear that you do that. Um, the reason why I asked whether or not you have a personal trainer for this is because, and a lot of times what you do is you don't need one, but I find that I myself, I'm not a very disciplined person, but the fact that I've already paid the money, I already made the schedule. I don't feel like getting out of bed like, um, Saturday mornings and I feel really groggy. But once I got to the gym, once I start doing a little thing, then actually I'm glad it happened. And this is one of those things that it becomes part of your life. So yeah, I'm so happy to hear you doing that. And keep it up, yeah, definitely.
Thank you. I think the most satisfying part is when I didn't want to put on my shoes and I
Hmm.
felt groggy and I was sleepy walking, and inside of me in my head screamed, don't do this, it's a trap. But I still put on my shoes and tie my shoelace anyway. And
Yeah.
then I hit the road, and then that's the most satisfying feeling that I can overcome that big shouty voice in my head trying to stop me. And I don't know, it's oddly satisfying.
Oh, the human brain has the most interesting way of you. You're saying something as simple as tying the shoes. It'll create fear in you, thinking, "Oh, you have to commit to this now," and it's yeah. Sometimes we have to tune ourselves out. That's really funny.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's Ghostbuster Afterlife. My son was so scared, he couldn't
Oh, you
sleep at
scared?
night.
Oh,
Because remember that part they had a chessboard in the daughter's room?
Hmm.
Well, my son has a chessboard right next to his bed. And I was thinking, honestly thinking, oh, maybe I should set it up, and in the middle of the night, I will go in and make a move and scare
Yeah,
him out.
or even better, you have a table, you put the chessboard in there, you have a magnet, and you put a like a thing, and you make it
Oh,
move.
oh, oh, you wicked fathers.
yeah. But anyways, for those of you who haven't seen that movie, it's great. If you made it this far to our video and actually hear this joke, yeah, go watch the movie. It's awesome. I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
if you listen this far and hear these jokes, I just want to tell all the audiences I love you. It's been 40 minutes, and I appreciate that. Please like, please subscribe, and please share. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's talk again next week, and we will dive into NFT and metaverse.
Okay,
Sure.
cool.
Cool. Thank you. Thank
Interesting.
Okay,
you.
thank you. See you
Bye.
next time. Sorry I
See
can
you.
get to see you when I'm in Bangkok.
No worries. Next time. Always next time.